Every forest has its secrets, but some whispers on the wind weren't born here. They were brought here, caged, and now they are free. If you dare to listen, to truly understand the darkness that has taken root in our woods, then stay a while. And if you want to ensure you never miss a story, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Story 1. The one who walks backwards. It wasn't the blood that scared me the most. It was the footprints. They led deep into the old-growth timber of Washington's Gifford-Pinchot National Forest, a place I'd patrolled for 15 years. But these prints, they were all wrong. Humanoid, but with a deep, cruel claw mark at the heel, and they were pointed towards the scene of the carnage, not away from it. It was as if something had walked backwards out of the trees, done its work, and then walked backwards right back in. My name is Ben. I'm a U.S. Forest Service law enforcement officer, a forest ranger, most folks call me. My life is a cycle of checking permits, helping lost hikers, and occasionally dealing with a poacher or a meth lab tucked away in a gully. It's a good life, a quiet one. The town of Carson, nestled on the banks of the Wind River, is the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and the biggest monthly excitement is whether the high school football team wins or loses. The first sign was small. A hunter named Davy Crockett, yes, that's his real name and he's never lived it down, came into the ranger station white as a sheet. He claimed something had stalked him for 2 miles along the boundary trail. He said it never showed itself, but he could hear it. A slow, shuffling gait that kept perfect pace with him, and a smell, a god-awful stench like rotten meat and spoiled fruit. He said it sounded like it was walking on 2 legs, but the steps were all wrong, heavy and dragging. We wrote it off. Davy's a good guy, but he's been known to sample his own moonshine a little too early in the day. Then the calls started coming in. Campers reporting their coolers ripped apart, not by bears, we know bear work, but torn open with what looked like immense strength. The metal hinges snapped like twigs. Food was gone, but so were bags of charcoal, a can of kerosene, even a sealed bag of quick-set concrete. Weird stuff. Then the animals started to go quiet. The woods have a constant soundtrack, squirrels chattering, birds calling, the rustle of deer. In a sector north of Trout Creek, that soundtrack just stopped. The silence was heavier, more oppressive than any noise. The historical background of these woods is a story of industry and isolation. A century ago, this was a booming logging area, with remote company towns that vanished when the timber ran out. There are stories of old hermit loggers, men who went mad from the solitude, who'd supposedly steal from camps and whisper curses from the tree line. We all knew the tales. We'd laugh about them over beers at the Carson Inn. But this felt different. This wasn't a sad old man. This was something that didn't belong. The climax came with the Thompson family. They were from Portland, here for a weekend of camping. They'd set up at the Falls Creek Horse Camp. Their dog, a big brave German shepherd named Duke, vanished on their first night. They found him the next morning, or what was left of him. It was a mess of fur and gore, but it was arranged, almost carefully. His body was propped against a tree, and around him was a perfect circle of the things that had been stolen from other camps. Charcoal briquettes, the bag of concrete now set into a hard, crude lump, the empty kerosene can. It was an altar, a offering, and the footprints, those damn backwards footprints, were everywhere. I led the search party. Me, 2 other rangers, and a few volunteer firefighters from Carson. The silence in that part of the forest was a physical weight on our ears. We followed the trail of broken branches and that lingering, sweet, rotten stench. We found their tent ripped to shreds, their supplies scattered and destroyed. And then we heard it. A low, guttural sound, like rocks grinding together. It was coming from a thicket of Devil's Club up ahead. I motioned for everyone to stop. I drew my sidearm, my heart hammering against my ribs. I pushed forward, the thorns tearing at my uniform. And I saw it. It was a nightmare. A creature that looked like it was made of matted, coarse hair and hardened, leathery skin. It was huge, maybe 7 feet tall, and it was crouched over the body of Mr. Thompson. Its head was bent at an impossible angle, and its mouth, God, its mouth was a vertical gash that ran right up the center of its torso, lined with teeth like broken glass. It was making that grinding noise, a horrific chewing, sucking sound. But the most terrifying detail, the one that will haunt me until the day I die, was its feet. They were twisted backwards, the claws digging into the soft earth. And it was walking. It was shuffling backwards, dragging Mr. Thompson's body deeper into the woods, never turning around, its impossible mouth never stopping its awful work. It knew we were there. One of its eyes, a small dull black bead, rolled in its socket and looked right at me. There was no malice, no anger, just a bottomless, ancient hunger. It let out a blast of that foul stench and a sound that wasn't a roar, but a deep vibrating bellow that shook the leaves on the trees. Then it just melted into the shadows between the firs. It was gone. We found Mrs. Thompson and their daughter an hour later, huddled in a hollow log, alive but catatonic with a terror I hope I never have to understand. They were airlifted out. The official report blames a rogue bear, an unusually large and aggressive predator. The case is closed. But I know what I saw. I did my own digging late at night past the point of exhaustion. I found legends from the Amazon basin, stories the indigenous people tell of a monstrous guardian of the forest. They call it the Mapinguari, a cursed spirit, a creature with backward feet, a mouth in its belly, and an appetite that never ends. The notes on the digital file I should never have accessed were cryptic, redacted. They mentioned a biomechanical retrieval contract from a company called Veritas Corp., a containment breach at a private airfield near Portland, and a single lost shipping container that was supposed to be destined for a research facility in the Rockies. It was supposed to contain agricultural samples. It didn't. It contained a legend. And it's out there now, in my forest. I still walk my patrols, but I never go into the deep timber alone. And I never ever walk without constantly looking over my shoulder, listening for the sound of dragging steps behind me, and praying that the footsteps I hear are moving away and not towards me. Story 2. The Boy Who Whistles. My name is Leo, and I drive a long-haul truck. My world is the asphalt veins of America, the hum of my diesel engine, and the static of late-night radio. I've seen weird things on the road, sure. Every trucker has their stories. But what happened to me on a remote logging road in the deep woods of northern Maine? That wasn't just weird. It was a curse, and it followed me home. It started with a detour. A wreck on I-95 had traffic backed up for miles. I was hauling a load of furniture from Bangor to Quebec, and I was behind schedule. My GPS showed a spiderweb of old logging roads cutting through the million-acre wilderness. Risky, especially at night, but my rig was tough and I was desperate. I took the turnoff, leaving the steady glow of the highway for the oppressive darkness of the pines. The first few hours were fine. Then the fog rolled in. Not a natural fog. It was thick, cold, and clung to the windshield like wet gauze. I had to crawl along at 10 miles an hour. That's when I heard it. Faint at first, then clearer. A whistle. A tune. It was being whistled by someone with a perfect pitch, but the melody was all wrong. It was off-key in a way that grated on the nerves. A dissonant, lilting tune that sounded almost like a nursery rhyme played on a broken record. I figured it was some local kid, maybe a hunter trying to signal his buddies. I pressed on. The whistling got louder, closer. It seemed to be right outside my passenger window, keeping pace with my truck. I peered into the murk, but I saw nothing. Just the endless wall of dark trees. Then my engine sputtered. The needle on my fuel gauge, which had been at a quarter tank, plummeted to empty. The truck coughed, shuddered, and died, leaving me in a silence so complete it was deafening. For a second, there was nothing. Then the whistle started again, right next to the driver's side door this time. It was so clear, so crisp, it felt like the whistler was sitting in the cab with me. I'm not a cowardly man. I've broken up fights at truck stops. I kicked the door open and jumped down, swinging the light beam in a wide arc. The fog swallowed the light, giving me only a few feet of visibility. "Hello?" I shouted, my voice sounding small and pathetic. "Who's out there?" The whistling stopped. In the new silence, I heard something else, a faint dry rattle like bones shaking in a gourd. Then a voice. It was young, a boy's voice, but thin and reedy like it was coming from a great distance. "Trucker man, lost your way." I spun around, my light catching nothing but swirling mist. "Show yourself," I yelled, my voice cracking. "My father lost his way," the voice whispered, and this time it was right behind my ear. I felt a cold breath on my neck. I swung the thumper backward wildly, connecting with nothing but air. I stumbled, falling against the cold metal of my truck tire. I pointed the flashlight upward, and I saw him. He was perched on the roof of my trailer, looking down at me. He looked like a young man, maybe 16, but his clothes were tattered and old-fashioned, like from a century ago. His face was pale and gaunt, but his eyes, they were black pits, empty, and he was smiling the widest, most horrifying smile I've ever seen. In his arms, he cradled a sack made of dirty canvas. Something inside it moved, shifting with that dry, rattling sound. He lifted a bony finger and pointed at me. "You will do." Then he began to whistle that terrible, dissonant tune again. He jumped down from the trailer, landing without a sound, and started walking down the road away from me. He didn't look back. He just whistled. I scrambled back into my cab, locking the doors. I tried the ignition. To my shock, the engine roared to life. The fuel gauge read a quarter tank again. I didn't question it. I slammed the gear shift into drive and peeled out, spinning my wheels on the gravel road. I didn't stop driving until I saw the dawn breaking over the highway. I was safe. I delivered my load, collected my pay, and started the long drive back to my little house in rural Vermont. I tried to forget the whistling boy. I told myself it was the fog, the stress, a waking dream. For a week, nothing happened. I started to relax. Then, one night, I heard it, faint from the woods behind my house. The whistle, the same off-key lilting tune. My blood ran cold. I looked out the window. Standing at the tree line under the moonlight was the boy. He was closer this time. He held his sack and he was pointing at my house. The next night, he was closer still, standing in my backyard. The night after that, his pale face was pressed against my living room window, his black eyes staring in, his whistling muffled by the glass. I called the cops. They found nothing. They thought I was crazy. The climax happened last night. I was in my kitchen clutching a baseball bat listening to the whistle. It was inside my house now, in the hallway. I heard the rattling sack dragged across the floorboards. "Trucker man," the voice whispered from the darkness of the living room. "It's time to meet my father." I screamed and charged into the room, swinging the bat. The room was empty. The whistling was coming from upstairs now, from my bedroom. I ran up, my heart ready to burst. The door was closed. The whistling stopped. The voice came from right behind the door. "Open the door, Leo, he's so hungry." I did something then I'm not proud of. I turned and ran. I fled my own house, jumped in my car, and sped away. I'm in a motel now, 50 miles away. I'm writing this down because I need someone to know. I looked it up, this thing that follows me. In Venezuela and Colombia, they tell of El Silbón, the whistler, a patricide cursed to wander forever, carrying the bones of his father in a sack. He whistles his dissonant tune, and if you hear it clearly, it means he's far away. If it sounds faint, it means he's right behind you. He targets drunkards and adulterers, they say. I'm neither. But I took a wrong turn. I intruded on his territory, and I read something else on the same dark web forum where rangers talk of backward feet. They talk of acoustic anomalies being transported for sonic weaponry research by the same company, Veritas Corp. A shipment was lost. A containment jar containing something the notes called an ethno-cultural resonant frequency was shattered on a flight from Caracas to Boston. The frequency, they said, wasn't just a sound. It was an entity, a thought, a story that whistles itself into existence. He's found me. I can hear him now, outside my motel room door. The whistling is so faint I can barely hear it. He's right behind me. Story 3. The Seventh Son. My brother Jake was the seventh son of a seventh son. In our family, that was supposed to be a blessing. It meant he was destined for greatness, for a touch of magic. My grandma would tell us old stories from the old country, which for us was a mix of Irish and, on my mom's side, something she'd never really talk about. Just called it river folk from deep South America. After what happened, I think I understand why she was so secretive. That wasn't a blessing Jake carried. It was a beacon. We live in the Ozarks of Missouri. Life is simple. We fish, we hunt, we look after our own. Jake was the best of us. Strong, kind, with an easy smile that could calm a spooked horse. The change started after the new owners took over the old Miller farm. They weren't farmers. They were from some big city. And they put up a huge fence around the property with signs that said, Veritas Agrosciences, private property, no trespassing. We all thought it was weird, growing genetically modified soybeans way out here. But the money they spent in town was good, so folks looked the other way. Jake was a dog breeder. He had the best hunting dogs in 3 states. One of his prized blue ticks, a female named Bella, got loose one night. Her tracking collar led right to the edge of the Veritas property. Jake went after her. He was gone all night. He came back the next morning, looking pale and shaken, with Bella tucked under his arm. He wouldn't say what happened. He just said he'd gone into a ditch to get her and cut his arm on some broken glass. The cut was deep and nasty. It wouldn't heal. That was the first sign. The wound festered, but it didn't look infected. It looked hungry. The flesh around it seemed to pulse. Then the dreams started. Jake would wake up screaming, talking about running on all fours, about the taste of blood in his mouth, about a full moon that felt like it was burning his skin. He became irritable, snapping at everyone he loved. He started eating his meat raw, claiming cooked food tasted like ash. The second sign was the farm animals. Old Man Henderson's prize bull was found torn apart in its field. Not eaten, just shredded. There were wolf tracks, but way too large. The howls we started hearing at night weren't tea from any wolf or coyote I'd ever heard. It was a deeper, more guttural sound, a roar tangled with a scream. It echoed from the hills, and it always seemed to be coming from near Jake's place. I went to see him. The man I found wasn't my brother. He was hunched in a dark corner of his cabin, his eyes glowing with a feral yellow light. His hair had grown coarse and thick all over his body. His fingernails were thick yellow claws. The cut on his arm had opened into a weeping black mouth of a wound. "It's in me, Mark," he rasped, his voice a low growl. "What they had in that place, it got in the water, in the soil. It got in my blood." He told me everything then, through fits of pain and snarling. He'd fallen into a runoff ditch on the Veritas property. The water was thick and chemical-smelling. He'd seen broken glass vials with a biohazard symbol. He'd seen a dead fox lying in the water, its body twisted and malformed. The thing inside him, he said, was old. It was from a place where the jungle is so deep the moon doesn't touch the ground. They call it the lobizon, he said. A curse that passes to the seventh son. A man who becomes a beast. Veritas must have been trying to isolate it, to weaponize it. They'd brought a curse in a test tube and spilled it on our land. And it had found him, the seventh son, the perfect host. The climax came on the night of the full moon. The howling started right at dusk, but it wasn't from the hills. It was from Jake's cabin. The sound of splintering wood and shattering glass tore through the night. I was there with a few other men from town, armed with rifles, hoping to somehow help him, to contain him. The thing that burst through the cabin wall was a monster. It was a horrific fusion of man and wolf, standing on its hind legs, matted with black fur and streaked with Jake's torn clothes. Its snout was long and filled with jagged teeth, but its eyes were still my brother's. They were filled with a terror and a pain that was utterly human. It threw its head back and howled, a sound of pure agony that shook the very trees. It saw us and charged. We were frozen in terror. It moved with blinding speed, but it didn't attack us. It slammed into the ground at our feet, tearing at the earth with its claws as if fighting its own body. It was Jake. fighting the thing inside him, trying to stop himself. With a final heart-wrenching cry that was more man than beast, it turned and fled into the deepest, darkest part of the woods. We found the cabin destroyed, and we found Jake's journal. He'd been documenting the change. The last entry was from that afternoon. The moon is rising, I can feel it pulling him out. I've locked myself in. If you're reading this, little brother, don't look for me. Don't try to save me. The Lobizon is free. But tell everyone what they did. Tell them Veritas didn't just bring a monster to our woods. They turned my blood into a cage. We never found his body. The official story is that Jake was killed by a wild animal attack. Veritas Corp quietly shut down their operation, citing soil infertility. They were gone within a month. But I know the truth. My brother is still out there, and he's not alone. I hear the howls sometimes, and now there's more than one. The thing they spilled, the curse, it's contagious. It's in the water. It's in the soil. It's in the blood. And on every full moon, the woods belong to them. We just board up our windows and pray the seventh son in our family line ended with Jake. These woods hold more than just trees and secrets. They hold the echoes of horrors we were never meant to know, tragedies born in labs and unleashed upon an unsuspecting world. Thank you for listening, for bearing witness to these dark truths. If these stories have unsettled you, reminded you to listen a little closer to the sounds in the night, then please honor that feeling by liking this video and subscribing for more journeys into the shadows. Stay safe, and remember, sometimes the oldest legends find the newest homes.